The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with a rapid reaction to the Chris Rock special. It is 11:17 p.m. and I just turned off the post-game show. This will be a little less focused than a normal podcast because I'm not really working off a script. I do have some light notes and I'm just sharing my thoughts. What's going through my mind now is you've heard me talk in the past about the hypothetical return of Eddie Murphy to stand-up, and I think this is a good warning to Eddie that nothing could ever lead up to the hype. I'm coming away from a Chris Rock special that probably is perfectly fine. It's definitely not his best work, but because of the anticipation for a year, what's Chris Rock going to say about Will Smith? And for Chris to not get to that material till an hour in, I think that was a mistake. And I say that, and I mentioned this on Twitter, I say that realizing Chris Rock is one of the all-time greats, and I'm an idiot in the basement recording a podcast. So yeah, Chris Rock knows a lot more about comedy than I do, but just as a viewer, I'm like, get to it. And he buried it, and I think the energy was out of the room. So just now, I was sticking around for the postgame, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a tough setup. And they immediately threw it to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for his take, and I was like, dude, it's 11:15. I'm tired. I no longer care. Let me go through my notes here, and I'll handle this in chronological order as I wrote things down. So about 9:17 or so, I went to Netflix. I went to the waiting room, and it said the special would load, and then it hadn't by like 9:33, and I'm like, So I had to exit and go back in, and because of that, I missed the first 3 minutes of Ronnie Chang. Other than that, a little stuttering here and there. The Netflix tech was pretty good. I'm sure there's a way they can figure out how to make sure the room actually loads if you get there too early, but whatever, fine. So when I got there, Ronnie Chang was already in the middle of his set, and he was joking about Netflix's innovation of doing comedy on Saturday Night Live, which got a good laugh out of me. And he pointed out it was comedy on Saturday Night Live with Chris Rock, David Spade, and Dana Carvey. Pretty good observation there. Nice spot for Ronnie Chang. Pretty high visibility. I thought he was pretty good. Dion Cole was your DJ. Dion had nothing to say. I don't know why he was there, but okay, fine. Then they threw it to Spade and Carvey to tease the post-game show. David Spade doing most of the talking. Carvey had his back to the camera, which telegraphed that he was probably setting up some sort of bit. What's going to happen when he turns around? And Carvey did a really awful hack Joe Biden. It was bad. I'll read you my notes to myself verbatim. Carvey doing an awfully hack Biden, geez. And then the part that annoyed me in the pregame show was, remember all week I was telling you the pregame show is going to feature Amy Schumer and Paul McCartney and a bunch of others? It was just really lame B-roll. Amy Schumer's part was filmed on the street as if like somebody found her on the street and had a flip cam and was like, Amy, can you talk about Chris Rock for 5 seconds? And she did. Paul McCartney, I think, was on a total of 3 seconds. It said something like, Chris Rock's really funny, hey? And that was it. Like, as I mentioned during the week, I worked at a place that lived and died by the press release. I get the press release, and Netflix, congratulations. Your press release said featuring Amy Schumer, Jerry Seinfeld, Paul McCartney, Matthew McConaughey, and whoever else you got in there. And I took the bait, but boy, as a viewer, lame. Ronnie Chang mentioned that the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival will take place May 2nd to the 12th. I think that was an announcement. I don't recall doing a story telling you about the festival returning. So that's good news. He didn't mention who would be playing there, but there were a bunch of recognizable comedians in the crowd. So who knows? I'm sure we'll have something in the next few days that we can talk about. I'm still on the pregame show here. JB Smoove happened. It was funny enough. He often gets by on energy. His bit was a bit forced, but it was fine. Leslie Jones then came out to do some stand-up. Oh, at one point they threw it to Jeff Ross, who opened for Chris Rock. I wish they had just shown Jeff Ross warming up the audience. That would have been better than the pregame show. Anyway, Leslie got up, did some stand-up, and it felt like she was playing to the room. Her material was a little inside baseball. And I forgot to mention, like I said at the top, this is a little more freeform than I usually do. The pregame show sounded like it was to a room of about 8 people. Like the audience wasn't reacting. At the end of the half-hour pregame, it was revealed that the audience was mostly comics. That explains it. Comics aren't going to laugh at other comics. They're going to sit in the back and go like, oh, that was really good, or even hate on whoever's on stage. So that made sense, but it made the room sound dead. Anyway, Leslie got up and she kind of repeated the SNL joke about it being comedy on Saturday Night Live. I guess she didn't know Ronnie did it, and her version wasn't as good, so that landed flat. And then finally, it was 10 o'clock, and time for Chris Rock to come on. At that point, I tweeted, "This is fun, feels like an event." Like, it really felt like old-time TV or like a sporting event where we're all watching the same thing at the same time, and it felt big. So out comes Rock, doing okay early. I flagged a couple jokes. One was about R. Kelly and Michael Jackson. Chris's punchline along the lines of, "Same crime, one of them has better songs." That got a good laugh out of me. Then he did a chunk on Elon Musk, and I thought that chunk was really good. Next thing I wrote down, "What's up with Chris Rock's shoes?" And I Googled, he's 5'10", so it's not like he's short. Why the 2-inch, 3-inch lifts on the shoes? Why does he need to look taller on camera? That was catching my eye. And I'll point out, if I'm focused on your shoes, the comedy's not on point, right? Because my mind is drifting. Then he went into a really strong chunk about Meghan Markle, and I think this might have actually been the strongest part of the night. A good line about the British royal family, calling them the OG racists, calling them the Sugar Hill Gang of racism. That got a good laugh out of me. My note to myself there was the Meghan Markle chunk was when Chris Rock found his groove. I compared it to a baseball starting pitcher finding his good stuff in the third inning and now cruising in a good way. First 10 minutes or so, I don't think Chris was totally in his rhythm, but for the Meghan part, yeah, he was rolling. And then the special started to fall apart. And I wrote, "Is there a clause in Netflix contracts that compels you to do a chunk of transgender jokes?" They weren't that good. And I don't know, it's like you're just waving a flag now to get people to react, especially the combination of doing transgender jokes on Netflix. I don't think it was worth going there. I don't think it paid off. At 10:34, I wrote, "Chris has waited way too long to get to Will Smith, and he'll need a killer closer, or this will be a letdown. Let's see what happens." So right after the halfway mark, I'm like, The next thing I wrote, "Abortion chunk getting a poor reaction on Twitter. It's been a boring 10 minutes. Yeah, the abortion chunk, I started to just zone out, and I wasn't feeling the room, and I was looking at what people were saying on social, and it seemed like that was where the special probably dipped the most, and people were getting pretty restless." My next note was, "It's been a boring 30 minutes. Yeah, there's a solid half hour that's just kind of all right, are we going to get to this or not? Chris finally got to the Will Smith material at 11 o'clock, so we're a full hour in. He finally got into it, and it was fun. He seemed genuinely angry. Not having seen him do this material on other nights, is this him putting on an act, or did the live national audience kick him into an extra gear where he felt the emotions in more of a raw way than maybe he did on other nights? I don't know, but watching it on TV, he seemed to have genuine anger during that segment, and that was a strong segment. Not as strong as the Meghan part, though. He also blew a joke. That's not me saying that. He said that. The joke was along the lines of Jada being upset that Will Smith did not get an Oscar for concussion, so instead he gave me a concussion, but he blew the joke and said the movie Emancipation the first time around, then admitted he blew the joke, kind of tap danced and circled his way back around to get the concussion joke in, but he had telegraphed it so it didn't land when he finally did it. And then he did an actual mic drop, and we were done at about the 70-minute mark. And I wrote, definitely not Rock's best. And he waited too long to get to why everybody was there. I think that chunk would have worked better about 20 minutes in, but what do I know? He's an all-timer, and I'm tweeting. So that's my quick take there. I want to like it more. I don't hate it. Let me see my 2023 rankings, my immediate take. Right now I have Nate Bargatze at number 1. Was it better than Nate? No. Was it better than Jim Jefferies? No. Was it better than the roast of Mr. Peanuts? Can you believe I'm actually humming and hawing? Was Chris Rock's big 1 year later, I'm going to finally talk about Will Smith better than the roast of Mr. Peanut? I guess I got to say yeah there. I'm opening up my little notepad here and I'm putting Chris Rock at 3. But I only have 4 things on the list, and the 4th is Roast of Mr. Peanut. So I don't know. That's my quick take. Would love to know what you guys think. So hit me up in the Daily Comedy News Facebook group, or on the Reddit, or on social media. All the links are in the notes. It's a little late here. You can hear my voices giving out. But my takeaway right now is that was okay. If you're new, follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you get your shows. Normal episode in the feed, the way I scheduled it. This normal Sunday episode came out 1 minute before this bonus episode. And, go listen to that, and I'll see you tomorrow. On Monday's episode, I do not talk about Chris Rock at all because I already recorded it. All right, see ya. So you're at McDonald's and you get your bag and you open your bag, you want to grab a couple fries or something, and there's $5,000 in it. Yeah, this happened to one guy. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. He gave the money back, don't worry. If you want to start your day with a smile twice a week, I've got 5 good news stories for you. For example, there's an airline for dogs. Or what about the woman in her 80s who just released her debut album? How about the dude who found 150 corn on the cobs under his floorboards? Is corn on the cobs even the way you say that? Who cares? And yes, that was a pony at the supermarket. 5 good news stories, the number 5 good news stories, 5 good news stories, the number 5 good news stories, wherever you get your podcasts.